lot of politicians and former politicians are writing books these days. Al Gore and Sarah Palin come to mind. Often they have an issue to educate us about, or more than a few axes to grind. Now one of our very own Oregon politicians has been hitting the keyboards, and the messages she's tucked inside the pages of her books come in the very palatable forms of heartwarming tales from the heartland or a Gothic murder mystery. You probably recognize Caroline Miller as a Metro counselor and a two-term Multnomah County commissioner. In her latest book, she takes on an issue that tore at the very fabric of our nation in the 60s and examines it through a fictional perspective in another land and another time.
If you wanted to break the model, you were in for some trouble. I went in for a job which is now dominated by women. Human resources is called, public relations then, and it was advertised for men, but I couldn't see anything there that I couldn't do, so I showed up, and they threatened to call security and throw me out. Yeah.
Because I believe you had used your initials rather than your first
name. I had
name.
used my initials, yeah, deliberately, I'm afraid.
So that was a barrier that, and so you had that barrier seeking a job. How did you finally break through that in your career? How did you handle that? And how did the women around you handle it? Because I know a lot of women who went through that.
You know, I think I handled it badly with a fair amount of anger. Then I did go overseas, which was the background for one of my books, and spent some time in England. But when I came back, The Female Eunuch had been published, you know, and there was a whole movement that this book had just tapped into the frustrations that women had, and of course I went for it and became politically active and very involved in women's rights and the ERA amendment and all those dead dodo issues. Yeah.
Is that how it led you to become a local politician? Is that how you decided to run for the Metro Council or the Multnomah County Commission? Is that what your transition was there?
Actually, it started by accident. I got involved as a teacher and then very active in the teachers' labor movement, which took me into the AFL-CIO. And I got very prominent in there. In fact, a wonderful woman, Nellie Fox, who was high up, made me the first woman parliamentarian of the AFL-CIO convention. And let me tell you, that was an experience. I mean, those old electricians and carpenters weren't ready for a woman telling them that
what to do.
Yeah, yeah. And so I really had to know my my parliamentary law. And a couple of times I got down off the stage and read it to them, and eventually they took to it. Well, I got the attention of some people in politics, and I was asked to run for the Multnomah County Commission. Before that, I had run for Metro and won with labor support because it was a new government. Nobody knew anything about it, and I thought, oh, why not? You know, I'd like to do that. Got elected. Fabulous experience. Fabulous experience. And then I got a taste for politics. Yeah.
Yeah, well, how was it? Because I know you take on this theme in your book about how women...
Gothic Spring.
Yes, Gothic Spring, this book. And I think that a lot of people have an issue and they write a nonfiction book about it. They write a memoir, they write a book like some of the books that Al Gore has written. But you've decided to put this in a fictional format. Why?
Well, for one thing, I wanted to do a petri dish study of what it was like to be a woman fighting a culture in a society, and what better than the Victorian age.
So this is set in the Victorian age and in England.
It's a real Victorian Gothic, and in a small community, because you know, Janice, women can sometimes be an obstacle to other women getting ahead. And in a small community where women have gotten used to their roles, any woman who's bright enough to want a challenge, initially there's a shock.
Yes.
And they'll be the first to tell you can't do it before the man will sometimes. So I wanted to look at that corrosive environment. That Victorine is the heroine. She's talented beyond her years. And what was it like in that period where women were not even anything but properties of the husband?
True.
In a tiny community surrounded by women who accepted that culture and didn't question it.
Right. As I recall, she's a teenager, young teenager. She's an orphan. She's living with her aunt, who is very traditional. As I recall, even her own mother, that her recollection of her mother kind of underestimated her and didn't appreciate her so much. So there's that. Apparently, you've seen, and I like that, your observation about women being the first to repress other women. Did you experience that yourself in getting into politics?
Oh, Janice, I can't tell you how many women slammed the door in my face and actually said I would never vote for a woman.
And did they give you a reason?
No, they just wouldn't vote for a woman.
That's not the way it is?
They just saw these things, and you know, that would be in the 70s.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
So, however, let me say this.
Yes.
When women get the message, they're great. You know,
yes.
They're that networking, that nurturing, that supportive system. It's just getting women to turn that corner.
Are there lessons to be learned in this book, do you think?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And in fact, I worry a little bit that some of today's younger women don't know the lessons of what women have gone through. And furthermore, don't care, because it doesn't matter. It's the past. They're here now. Why do they need to learn the lesson? Well, you know, life is peaks and valleys. What you don't hang on to, what you don't cherish, can be lost.